The government's recent critical skills list highlights the shortage of essential accountancy skills, resulting in a shortage of qualified accountants in South Africa. Dr. Hendrik Botha, head of institution at Boston City campus, joins us now for more. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. Now, what are some of the key drivers of the skills shortage?
Good evening, Katlego. Thank you. I'm humbled to be able to join you in the audience this early evening. So the shortage is driven by an absolute demand for accountants and for accounting skills. And this absolute demand is partly necessitated through the world economy growing, the economies in Africa growing, and economies that are growing are in desperate need of accounting skills. And therefore, South Africans are being absorbed into international jobs, whether they work from home in South Africa these days as digital accountants and working in systems and online, or whether they choose to emigrate or to take temporary residence overseas for these jobs. The other critical area that is driving this need is a shortage in training new accountants in South Africa.
Is this in any way attributed to the access of education in terms of funding and the access of higher education institutions for young people to be able to become accountants in the future?
I think we can partly attribute that elements as well. I think there's a whole host of reasons. One of the reasons also is, I think, a fear for accounting. I think many young people, and I think many early career adults and many midstream career adults have grown up with a fear for numbers and a fear for accounting. And as a matter of fact, accounting is the lifeblood of economies. Many studies have shown the demand for accountants increases the size of the economy. Accountants keep the business wheel ticking like a lifeblood, if I can. And this fear for accounting, I think we can also dispel, because accounting these days have many ranges of specializations, from bookkeepers to accounting technicians to general accountants to chartered accountants to registered auditors to internal auditors, you can name it, to cost and management accountants. And therefore, there's more opportunities for those who are fearful of numbers to get into the numbers game and to understand businesses and to support businesses and to grow businesses.
Well, of course, that fear for numbers is a serious challenge. Now, as we mentioned, many accounting skills are on the government's critical skills list. How can we address this issue?
So what's also interesting in accounting, which I think many viewers don't realize, is accountants is not just for business. It's also for local government. It's also for civil society organizations, and it's also for the public sector. Hence, there is a big demand, a growing demand. And I would just like to say the absolute importance of accountants. The reason we want ethical accountants, the reason we want competent and good accountants and auditors and forensic accountants and IT auditors in South Africa is not just to help grow the economy, but to give confidence to investors about what is happening with their money. Whether you own money in a pension fund which invest into the economy, or whether you're a taxpayer and your money gets utilized for public services. The absolute need for ethical practices and ethical values and the quintessential professionals we need in accounting is to drive that confidence factor. Because once that building block is in place, it's a good news story for all of us as citizens of Africa to grow. And I think it's a very confident and a very positive story, as the UN has recently indicated by 2050. 1 in every 4 citizens on the planet will be an African. So that's a tremendous opportunity and a tremendous inspiring phase for us to enter into these domains of accounting and to participate as active citizens.
Now, Doc, how can we manage the skills exodus, which is a double-edged sword? I mean, we are losing talent while at the same time we're being acknowledged globally for our high standards in the accountancy profession.
That's a very, very tricky balance. And I would phrase it, or I would attempt to undergird that by saying it's a supply and demand challenge. There is more demand than there is supply, so we should simply increase the supply. We should simply make access to accounting and all the phases and all the professions of accounting more readily accessible. Like, for example, with Boston City Campus, which is an open distance e-learning system that provides not just for school leavers, but also for many, many adults in mid-career phases to retrain or to train for the first time into new careers and opportunities. As the modern world today, which is also very exciting, it's the age, it's the absolute age and the greatest opportunity to reskill and retool, because we have access to all the learning and all the skills we need to acquire, which we did not have 20 or 40 or 60 years ago. So to drive that supply is to simply make it available, make the careers available, communicate to citizens and society opportunities that accounting represents, not just chartered accountants, but accounting technicians, bookkeepers, business analysts, tax specialists. That there's all these variety of exciting domains and opportunities to enter, and that it's accessible. It's accessible at your fingertips today to study from home or work. It's accessible to enter evening classes. It's accessible if you want to take time off to attend short courses in person. And that is, I think, the key here, is to drive more supply.
Most certainly. So now, Doc, can we then attribute this shortage to the great resignation, which has seen employees leaving their jobs in order to be or have more autonomy, to be more flexible in the work that they do?
So very, very interesting. That is the supply and demand matter. There are too few professionals available with many jobs chasing after them. So if we increase the uptake of interest to become accountants, by way of example, and many other fields, it's the same principle. If we can stimulate and we can be informative and we make students the center, the center of the education universe to serve and support them to success, we should be able to attract more candidates into the system to learn, to acquire the skills, and therefore less resignations and less people leaving us in the lurch because they're opting for what's best for their careers.
And lastly, Doc, then, is the digital economy contributing to this shortage by closing the boundaries between countries and even continents?
Absolutely. As the economies around us, including our own, becoming more digital, they are attracting skills from South Africa, and many of those skills remain in South Africa, because you're able to today, many accountants, by way of example, work from home here locally in South Africa for big international conglomerates, not just those from South Africa, but those from overseas. But that's also an opportunity locally to grow. And that's a prime example, as accounting is now entering many of the curriculums we, for example, have in association with our accreditation with the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, is on digital acumen, so that the new breed of accountants and auditors have the know-how and the skills to be more in demand, to be more productive, to be able to be more accurate, and to balance it with some leisure, as you can work from home and from the office from time to time. So digitalization is driving more jobs and differentiated jobs. But without a skill set, you can't compete for those jobs.
All right. Thank you so much, Doc, for that contribution to that conversation. We really appreciate your time. That's Dr. Hendrik Botha from the Boston City Campus, giving us an outlook on the shortage of skills within the accountancy profession.